the last 2 years, I've been able to consistently get 4.0 GPA on my classes as a student in the best university in my country and one of the best universities in the world. And while doing that, I've also been able to consistently lower the time that I have to study for my exams. And so if you watch this entire video, you're going to learn exactly what you need to do in order to study the least amount of possible for your exams while still getting the grades that you want. And so the reason why you study so much while getting not the exact results that you want for your exams and classes is because you don't backload any of the studying time. You always try to fit everything in the last week before the exam. And while this is still better than the student who studies the night before or the morning of the exam, it's still not as efficient as possible when you think about exactly how memory is formed in your brain. And so the first tactic that has changed my memory when it comes to remembering and recalling things on tests is exactly how quick I start studying after I've learned the information. And so the first time that I practice studying the information that's been provided in the lecture or the textbook is not just before the exam happens, but the way that I've started doing it, which has helped me reduce the amount of time that I need to study in order to remember the information, is just doing the practice literally right after the lecture. If not the night of, usually the morning after. And so if you have a class today, if you have a lecture today, you should not wait until the exam to go back and try to remember what you did. What you need to do is just go over the lecture slides the morning after and rewrite notes. Rewrite notes summarizing exactly the key points that was mentioned in each slide. That way when you have to study for the exam, you've also condensed the information so there's less information to actually study. And if you want to go even deeper, then the trifecta of memorization is, first of all, reading the textbook or assigned readings before the lecture, genuinely reading them. And if you want to go even more complex, then writing notes on the textbook. And we use this using active recall. And so basically read the textbook, then without looking at the textbook, try to write down everything that you remember that's important, and then look back to see what you missed and what you did not recall when you were doing the active recall session. And then after that, you go to the lecture and generally sit in the front of the class. Don't focus on writing as much notes as possible. Write exactly what's necessary, but everything that's already mentioned on the slides, don't add onto it, and just focus on the words and try to get as many senses involved as possible. You're looking at the slides and the professor, you're looking at his body language, you're also including your hearing, and you're listening to his voice. All of these senses will make your memory stronger because you have a lot more different kinds of memory, if you know what I mean. And then the third part is after the lecture is, as soon as you really can, just go back, read over the slides, and also using active recall, write your summarized notes, and then also look back at what you missed. And what you want to do when you do active recall and you find something that you missed, you basically also write it down in your notes, but with a different color, so that you recognize when you go back again and study that, oh, I forgot to remember this. This is maybe something that I want to focus more on and use more of my time to actually remember. And by the way, all these tactics, I know I'm going very briefly over, but just because I don't want to make a 1-hour video. And so this is something that you could easily get so much more information in my course, which is just the first link in the description if you want to check it out. But moving on, once you've actually gone through this trifecta of textbook, lecture, notes, this is when studying for the exam becomes 5 times easier, 10 times easier, and you don't have to put as much time. This way you don't have to start studying 5 hours every single day for 5 days in a row before the exam. And I'm not even exaggerating. From my own experiences, when I've perfected this trifecta, I've only had to study max 1 hour a day for the 5 days before the exam. And so this step alone is changing your life. And so you might want to try it for at least the next upcoming exam that you have. But then the second part of this is exactly how you study for that week before the exam. And so what most people do is just a bunch of reading the notes and trying to memorize the exact page word for word. And this might work if you repeat it 1,000 times, and that's exactly why you're spending 30 hours in the week prior to the exam. Whereas I spend no more than 10 hours for my hard classes. And even though I'm studying 20 hours less than you, I still get better grades. A lot of people will just look at me confused as I'm like taking my time in the gym, like the day before the exam, and I'm like just taking my time reading my self-improvement book and just like doing like watching YouTube videos. I'm like, bro, I'm not even stressed. I've already done this like tactic so many times that I know 90% of the time, 95% of the time, like I consistently get like reliable grades if I just study properly. But I don't need to study for ages and ages. And so the reason why is, first of all, I do this first step of the trifecta, but also the way I study for the exams the week before is not just by memorizing notes, memorizing words. I do a bunch of practice questions and try to find any past exams that I can get my hands on. I get my hands on like 5 to 10 past exams from the same professor, so that way I get so many of the repeating questions. Your university probably makes it so easy because they post past exams. They literally post past exams that you can use and study from. And from these, literally, I had a final exam yesterday that had 5 multiple choice questions, word for word repeated from the test that was like 2 years ago. Your teachers also provide you with practice questions, and so do them. But focus mainly on like the official past exams, because these are like coming from like question banks that they rotate every few years. And so I spend my time just doing practice questions and solving them, not looking at the answer key, like spending 30 minutes to 1 hour just doing a whole exam, acting like I'm in the exam room, putting myself in like similar conditions where there's no distractions. Maybe I'll have a podcast on maximum, but no visuals. Like I'll turn off my laptop and just do the thing, like just solve it on my iPad, like try to actually solve the questions. And then I looked at the answer key. If there's no answer key, I'll just search up each question. And then everything that I get wrong, I spend 5 to 10 minutes minimum understanding exactly why I got it wrong, understanding what the question is asking, so that when I get similar questions, I know the logic behind it and I know what it's asking. Also, if I have the luxury and the time, is I go over again like a day after or 2 days after, I go exactly and solve the questions that I previously got wrong. So I usually mark the questions that I got wrong with a flag or something, or save them so that I know to do them again later. This method is like 10 times the level of your studying. Even though you study more and for longer and you get like headaches and migraines, I'm chilling and I still get better grades than you because I just know how my brain works. Because I know that if I just do these questions and understand what it's asking and actually know how to answer them now and not just depend on like memorizing word for word the answer, this what did the page say, right? But instead I'm like, oh, this is what the question is asking, and it's like if I get the same repeating questions, which happens a lot more often than you think, it's like, oh, I remember doing this for practice, and so it's like, oh, what did I answer for that? I remember I was like, this is what I was thinking, and so you're not thinking about just the answer, but I was like, oh, do I remember the logic that I had and the reasoning that was going through my head when I was answering that question? And so you go through it again, the same process. And therefore, you're like, okay, this is how I got the answer. And you get the full marks. And so if you use that 2 methods, the trifecta and the past exams, the practice questions, instead of a bunch of reading notes. And I'm not saying not read notes, but I'm saying don't make it more than 30-40% of your studying. The majority of your studying should be practice questions. Even flashcards work great, but it just depends on the course. I just think that practice questions work for me and work for a lot of other people as well. And so even when I study with other people, when I study with my friends, all we're doing is going through practice questions. I can't remember the last time where I studied with my friends where it's like reading notes. We just do our own note reading on our own time, and then once we're done that, we just come together for like a 3-4 hour session and just smash like 5 past exams. And so like I said, if you want to learn more on how to actually get good grades and how to become a productive student that studies efficiently, then just check out my course. It's the first link in the description, and I'll see you there.